Hello, people. Welcome to Enneagram 101 Micro Training 1. I'm Maggie Sim, a mindset coach and founder of Holding Space. My mission as a coach is to help people shift from a survival mindset to a thriving mindset. What's a survival mindset, you may wonder? A survival mindset is one that lives in stress, scarcity, and fear. On the other hand, a thriving mindset is one that believes in abundance, in desires, and in overflow. I believe that one of the key ways to build a thriving mindset is having the ability to develop as many perspectives as possible about any aspect of our human experience. So instead of seeing things as being black or white, we are able to see the spectrum of gray in between. Our mindset is instrumental in how we attach meaning to our human experiences. If we can be flexible and create as many different meanings as possible about something, we have more options and choices in how we want to experience our life. So, for example, when we experience something, when we choose to attach a negative perspective to that experience, it's going to become a negative experience for us. Now, if we choose to attach a positive meaning because we are seeing it from another perspective, then that experience could potentially become a positive experience. So there are many ways for us to develop different perspectives about something. And today I want to present the Enneagram as one of the wonderful tools that help us see things differently. Now, the Enneagram gives us 9 different ways of seeing the world. And with this framework, we now have 9 different perspectives that we can choose as to how we want to go about attaching meaning to our human experience. So today's micro training is going to be a short and brief one. My objective in this micro training is to give you a snapshot and overview of what the Enneagram is about and what is the benefit of learning about the Enneagram. So today what we're going to cover is this. We're going to cover what is the Enneagram. Then we'll move on to what does the Enneagram tell you? What kind of information does the Enneagram give us? And then I'll move on to talk about why is the Enneagram useful, followed by who should learn the Enneagram and why you would want to learn the Enneagram. So the Enneagram is a geometric figure that illustrates 9 fundamental and interconnected personality types. So the numbers 1 to 9 sitting on the circle of the Enneagram represents the 9 fundamental personality types within this framework. So you can see that I've actually labeled the 9 personality types. There are different names for each of the type, but I've picked the ones that resonate most with me. And you see that there are arrows within the circle. Now these arrows show how the various 9 types are interconnected with each other via their positions on the circle. So I want to start off by saying that I believe that all of us have the 9 types in us. It's just that we predominantly identify with one type. And because the other 8 types sit within us, we are potentially influenced by the other types connected with our predominant type. So for example, for each number, you will notice a few things. Firstly, each number is wedged between 2 other numbers. For example, the number 7 is sitting between number 6 and number 8 on the circle. So in Enneagram language, the numbers 6 and 8 are known as the wings of type 7. Secondly, you will notice that each number has one arrow pointing towards it and another arrow pointing away from it. So if you look again at the number 7 sitting on the circle, you will see an arrow going towards it from the number 5, and another arrow moving away from it, going towards number 1. This means that the personality type 7 is interconnected to type 5 and type 1 in a very particular way. I won't go into the details of what this all means in this training. This is something that I'll cover in subsequent Enneagram deep dive trainings. Now, the Enneagram illustrates 9 fundamental and interconnected personality types, and each type has a distinct way of seeing the world. And this influences how each type thinks, feels, and behaves. So this could be this is helpful in understanding why someone else would think, feel, and behave differently from you. Both of you could go through the same experience and come out thinking, feeling, and responding to it differently, because each of you have a distinct way of seeing the world. This is what we call every type has its own map of the world. Because they have a different way of seeing the world, how they attach meaning to their experiences will be influenced by the predominant Enneagram type. Now, the aim of the Enneagram is not to put us in a numerical box, but to show us the way out of the box that we are already in. What does this mean? This means, for example, if I'm an Enneagram type 1, now if I want to open up my map of the world, I want to increase the choices that I have around perspectives, I can now have before me 8 other different perspectives of how I could see that situation. So that's what it means by the aim is not to put us in a box, but to show us the way out of the box that we are already in. We are, as an Enneagram type 1, I am now able to walk out of the type 1 box into the other 8 boxes if I choose to. There is a pathway for me. Now, what specific information does the Enneagram tell you? So I've drawn this diagram to highlight to you the 2 categories of information that the Enneagram shows you, right? The first category of information is information that we can see, hear, and experience about the other person. So what I mean is, like, you would be, the Enneagram tells you about that person's focus of attention. If we interact long enough with a person, we can tell what is a person's focus of attention. What we can also see and experience about a person is their likes and dislikes. We can also experience their healthy behaviors and their unhealthy behaviors. We also experience their healthy traits and unhealthy traits. And what's most important is about one of the most important pieces of information that the Enneagram shares with us is represented on that arrow with the 2 arrowheads, on the line with the 2 arrowheads. It's what does a person fear, avoid, or avoids, and what is the person motivated by, and what are the values of a person. Now, the second category of information that the Enneagram tells us is something that we may not see, hear, or experience about a particular type. This would be their unconscious beliefs that drives them, as well as their personal boundaries, like what's okay and what's not okay for them. So I'm going to go a bit deeper into the Enneagram type information in my next slide. So why is the Enneagram useful? I will categorize that into 6 different buckets. So the first one, as I've highlighted, is a particular type's focus of attention. So when you know a person's focus of attention, you basically know what is super important to them. Each type has their unique focus of attention. What this means is type 1 has a focus of attention that's different from 2, from type 3, from type 4, so on and so forth. Now, the second piece of information, vital piece of information that the Enneagram shares with us is what are the fears of a particular type. When you know the fears of a person, you have an idea of what do they tend to avoid. So what this means is, if you know that a person has a fear for conflict, chances are that they might tend to avoid having difficult conversations. They might avoid saying no to people. Okay. Now, the third piece of information that the Enneagram shares with us is a type's motivation. So when we know a person's motivation, we have a strong clue about what drives them. So if a person is driven by success, or is a person driven by needing security, or is a person driven by having varied experiences. So you could imagine how useful this would be if you're managing a team. Knowing what motivates people is crucial in how we retain and develop them. Now, the fourth piece of information that the Enneagram shares with us is a type's likes and dislikes. Now, this is important when we want to build rapport with someone. When we know what a person likes or dislikes, we know what to say and what not to say to them. We know how to say something and how not to say something. And we know how we can easily build rapport with them by mirroring the kind of behaviors and body language that they would like. And conversely, avoiding the ones that we know that they would dislike. Now, the fifth piece of information that the Enneagram shares with us are the traits and behaviors of a particular type. When we know someone's traits and behaviors, we have an idea about how they tend to show up, which means to say how they tend to respond to situations, how they interact with people, and basically how they behave. So for example, if you have someone whose focus of attention is around what's right and what's wrong, that means it's very important to them to be right. So their behavior is going to be, they're going to show up as very detail-oriented, very structured, very cautious, and they could also be highly critical. So when we know someone's traits and behaviors, we develop empathy. We know that how people behave, it's got to do with their focus of attention. It's got less to do with us. We don't take things personally, and we have empathy on why they show up that way. We may not agree with them, but we understand why. The last piece of useful information in the Enneagram shares with us is the unconscious beliefs of each type. When we understand someone's unconscious beliefs, we know actually what are their belief systems. So for some people whose focus of attention is on visibility and success, they may have an unconscious belief that it's not okay to be a failure. It is not okay to be unsuccessful. That if they are unsuccessful, or they are not visible, or they don't achieve things, they may not be loved. That's what we mean by unconscious belief. Now, who should learn the Enneagram? I believe everyone should learn the Enneagram because we are one of the types. We probably work with one of the types if we are working. We are probably living with one of the types. And it is more likely than not that in a family, you're going to have different Enneagram types living together under one roof. So when we learn the Enneagram, it really helps us in making hiring decisions. We know whether a particular job that we are hiring for, what kind of candidate we should be looking for. So for example, if we have a job that requires details, requires someone to be process-oriented, requires someone to be structured, we are going to be looking for an Enneagram type that suits that position. Someone with a focus of attention around details, a focus of attention around structure, and being meticulous. Now, if we are looking for someone fulfilling a role where we are looking for people with creative ideas, who loves to do different things and who love to juggle different kind of tasks at any one time, then we are going to be looking for a particular type with that kind of traits, who thrives on variety and who thrives on having different experiences in a workplace. Now, the second group of people who should learn the Enneagram are people who are leading and building a team. Because knowing the Enneagram allows you to understand what's their fears and what's their motivations. You understand what's their likes and what's their dislikes. And that helps you to develop a high-performing team, because you're playing to everybody's strengths and everybody's healthy traits. The third group just applies to all of us. As long as we are working with people, whether we're running our own businesses or whether we are working for an organization, this is highly useful. In relationships, definitely. I mean, a lot of times we have spouses and partners who have a completely different focus of attention from us, and we don't understand why. And we get into squabbles and we get into fights. It gets personal at times. But when we understand that all this conflict or the disagreement has got nothing to do with each other, but it just has got to do with our different focus of attention, our different motivations and fears, that provides us with a very good and neutral platform to work out conflicts and tension in the relationship. The fifth group would be parents. A lot of times,